In the case of Venezuela specifically, U.S. financial terrorism, or sanctions, have enabled the theft of Venezuela's international wealth, billions of dollars. Let me give you just one example. Citgo is Venezuela's largest and most valuable international asset. Yet it is on the verge of being liquidated as a direct result of U.S. sanctions and the Trump administration coup policy. That's because U.S. creditors were promised half of Citgo as collateral for debt owed by the Venezuelan government. This deal was negotiated by the democratically elected government of Venezuela, led by Nicolas Maduro. After the U.S. recognized Juan Guaido as the president of Venezuela, someone who 80% of Venezuelans didn't even know existed at the time, those accounts, U.S.-based accounts belonging to Citgo Petroleum, have been frozen as a result of U.S. sanctions. Yet, payments are still due on those bonds. The Guaido coup regime made the decision to pay the debt on those bonds back in May. On October 28th, another debt payment is due. And this time, all signals seem to suggest the Guaido coup regime isn't going to pay. And when it defaults, creditors will have the right to seize 50.1% of Citgo's assets in the United States. Now, this means that Citgo will be put up for sale, and oil industry competitors like Exxon, Valero, BP, and Shell Gasoline will have the opportunity to buy Citgo. That's gone on despite the fact the Maduro government was paying this debt. The actions of the Trump administration and the Guaido coup regime have directly enabled and led to what ultimately seems to be the theft of Citgo, Venezuela's largest international, most valuable international asset, right before our eyes. And no one's talking about this. People also aren't talking about the fact that the U.S. has sanctioned the CLAP food distribution program, a program which provides food and household supplies to 6 million families twice a month in Venezuela for free. And the U.S. has sanctioned that program, a program simply designed to distribute food. The U.S. government claims these sanctions are designed to target government officials. But tell me how sanctioning food deliveries to the average Venezuelan is actually something that's going to result in the government hurting. It seems like a direct attack on the Venezuelan people, on their families, on their children. And that is all a direct result of our government. So we need to be very aware that the actions of our government are waging an economic war. They're waging economic terrorism on populations all around the world. But the Venezuela case is so extreme and unprecedented. I've been to Venezuela and seen the effects of sanctions. And trust me, people there are very aware of the fact that they are a target of U.S. empire and that sanctions are what's driving their suffering, not the policies of their government, which they elected and the United States would like to sabotage, a sovereign state. And everywhere I went on the streets of Caracas, people came up to me and said, I love the U.S. people. Thank you so much for coming here, but please tell the U.S. people that they need to stand up to their government and demand an end to these sanctions. We need to treat economic warfare the same way that we treat military warfare because people will die. People are dying. According to a report by the Center for Economic and Policy Research, 40,000 excess deaths occurred in Venezuela in just a period of 2 years as a result of the lack of medicine and food caused by U.S. sanctions. That is the direct intention of U.S. sanction policy. And if you don't believe me, you can actually check the State Department's website where for one day they actually posted a list, which was essentially a list of confessions, saying that U.S. sanction policy had resulted in the destruction of Venezuela's oil industry, the fact that they couldn't sell their product on the international market anymore, and use that money to invest in their people. They took it down after almost 24 hours because they realized they shouldn't have been admitting that publicly, but they know what they're doing. And we need to know, and we need to tell everyone that we know that we should be in the streets, we should be demanding an end to these wars because we share a common enemy with the Venezuelan people, and that's the elites who control this country, the United States, but do not truly represent the interests of the US people.